warmest year on record. But is the evidence of man-made global warming? Multiple studies published in peer-reviewed scientific journals show that 97% of more actively publishing climate scientists agree on anthropogenic climate change, yet nearly half the percentage of adults in the United States are skeptic. Joining me today is atmospheric scientist Dr. Elizabeth Sachs from Harvard University and climate scientist Olivia Namier from Yale University, who will be here to discuss climate change, its impact on the environment, and what we need to be doing about it. On the other side of the spectrum, we have climate skeptics, Caitlin Jaros and Mikhail Goroshevi, who say that anthropogenic climate change is not occurring. Thank you all for being here today. Dr. Namier and Dr. Sachs, if you could give us a little background on what is going on in the world right now. Is the climate currently changing? And if so, how is this happening?
Hi Erin, thank you for having us. The climate is in fact changing drastically. There are several causes and influences behind the climate changing. Not only is it a natural cause, but it is also anthropogenic, which is more important.
Dr. Sachs is right. One of the most known causes of our climate changing that I wanted to focus on today would have to be the greenhouse gas effect. Greenhouse gases contribute to most of the climate change that we see today. And like Dr. Sachs mentioned a moment ago, it occurs naturally in the atmosphere, but also is contributed to by humans. An example of this would be the unnatural retrieving of fossil fuels from the ground.
The greenhouse gas effect occurs when the atmosphere absorbs radiation that is emitted from the Earth and is scattered everywhere. Like Dr. Namier just stated, it has a huge impact on climate change. These harmful gases that are emitted into our atmosphere creates a warming of the Earth. Warming of the Earth causes sea levels to rise a significant amount, negatively impacting ecosystems and the human populations since thousands of people live along the coast.
All right, so first question towards you two. Are you opposed to the concept of anthropogenic climate change, and why?
There are hundreds of factors that influence global temperature. From the tilt of the Earth's axis, glaciers are always coming and receding. The climate changing is natural. One record year is not global warming. We can't even predict the weather for next week.
Thank you for having us, Erin. Not all the changes in our climate change are anthropogenic. They happen naturally. There is no evidence that climate has been changing, and I have to mention that global warming is just part of natural cycle. Some scientists are not even sure that global warming is happening due to temperature records being unreliable. Speaking of unreliable, I just met with my colleague to discuss some information on the medieval warm period, which was a warm period in current conditions. This means recent warming is not unusual and must be natural, not human-made.
So, what is your response?
Mikhail, thank you for bringing up one of the most associated myths of this phenomenon. Yes, some evidence suggests that it was warmer in parts of the globe around this time period, which allowed Vikings to travel further north. But evidence also suggests that some places were very much colder than they are today, including the tropical Pacific. In conclusion, and all in all, when the warm places are averaged out with the cool places, it becomes clear that the overall warmth was likely similar to the early to mid 20th century warming.
I just want to add that the medieval warm period also has known causes which explain both the scale of the warmth and the pattern. It has now become clear to us that the medieval warm period occurred during a time which had higher than average solar radiation and less volcanic activity, which both results in warming. Changes in the ocean circulation pattern brought warmer seawater into the North Atlantic, also influencing the medieval warm period. These influences cannot be compared to today's warming.
All right, so do you dispute that there has been increased acceleration of CO2 in our atmosphere?
I just want to clearly state that CO2 has been increasing steadily since the beginning of time. This is not anthropogenic. Population has been increasing, almost doubling in size compared to 20th century. This past year, winter has been very cold, which shows that climate indeed has not been changing.
I agree with what Mike said. CO2 is natural, not human caused.
All right, so what are the man-made factors including the acceleration of CO2 in the atmosphere?
There are several factors caused by humans that accelerate emissions of CO2 and seems to be constantly increasing with modernization. Any human activity where you are burning coal, oil, and natural gases. As humans, we do this every day because we rely on these energy sources for transportation. Deforestation also plays a huge role because when you are cutting down thousands of trees at a time, it is very harmful because each tree is releasing carbon that has been stored if they are being left to rot or burned.
So what factors do you believe are then contributing to the current climate changing, if not from human activity?
Earth's temperature depends on the balance between energy entering and leaving this planet's system. When incoming energy from the sun is absorbed by the Earth system, Earth warms, which has nothing to do with humans. Also, the changes in the Earth's reflection is also a huge factor.
I would like to say that the Earth is currently in a natural warming cycle rather than man-made climate change. Many scientists believe that natural cycles of warming and cooling have existed since the beginning of Earth. Also, with 7 billion humans on Earth, there is likely some impact on nature.
Okay, so hypothetically speaking, let's say that the world scientists that are currently in consensus over climate changing are wrong. What's wrong with the global effort to conserve the environment? Shouldn't we be moving towards more sustainable forms of energy anyway?
Yes, Erin, we should be moving towards more sustainable forms of energy. And we are. Slowly, but we are. As scientists having front row seats, watching the climate change, it's difficult sometimes to see how slowly.
I believe regardless of the facts that prove the climate is changing, moving towards more sustainable forms of energy is beneficial in several ways besides helping the climate. They are very cost efficient in the long run, and creating more sustainable energy sources will only better our way of living.
Okay, so how do you explain that 2016 has been the warmest year on record?
Certainly nobody can deny that we have had several years of warming temperatures, but nobody can definitely say that it is human caused. I think this is a cycle that happens throughout the years, throughout the ages, and it is not human caused. And you can look back some of the previous times when there was no industrialization. You had these different ages, ice ages, and things that were warming and melting.
You can't get any information from the weather. There is no pattern that you can trace to decide that the reason it's warmer is because of humans. 1934 is said to be the warmest year on record, which was over 80 years ago, which goes to show that there is no pattern of the Earth getting warmer year by year.
So, do we have any final words?
Well, I think it's absolutely absurd that you would deny evidence that is clearly right in front of your eyes. Skeptics like you guys refuse to accept the stone-cold evidence that the climate is changing because you don't want to change your convenient ways of living. We will continue to prove that all humans are negatively affecting the climate and search for alternative ways to live without creating further harm. For those of you who continue to deny scientific evidence, maybe you will finally believe us when it is too late and half our world is underwater.
All right, let's leave it at that for today. Thank you all for coming on the show, and thank you for tuning in. As the population remains divided on the issue of anthropogenic climate change, which side are you on?
Want a little bit of